This is my review on The Hunger Games, starring Jennifer Lawrence, the first one, titled The Hunger Games. So, the first one, it's scavenger hunt. It's pretty much of a scavenger hunt. The whole first premise for the first one is basically a little scavenger hunt of who can outsmart who, went out with who, and besides physically and it's kind of a mental game. The first game in this one, which the Hunger Games premise is kind of a mental puzzle game that you try to figure out, because the whole game's kind of booby trap, and some of the it's one of those, like, the Hunger Games is basically a little game show where kids are destined to fight for life and their freedom if they win and survive. It's sort of a last man standing territory if you win. So just don't die. So Candace's sister gets picked, but then Candace decides to take her place and voluntarily takes her sister's place instead, so she can love her little sister. And she ends up saving this guy and falls for this guy, or be friends with this guy called Peter, who will become her true love in the future installments, I guess. But they'll be off and on again and have trouble getting along in the sequel installments until they have kids. And because Candace, due to her actions throughout the franchise, has kids. And I'm going to review all of the Hunger Games eventually in this episode. So, I'm going to try to make this brief as possible, but in much quick detail as much. Give you the premise of it. So, yeah, she saves everybody in the first one, and she becomes champion and stuff of the Hunger Games. Everyone loves her now because she inspires hope, blah, blah, blah. 5 out of 10, the first one is. Now, Catching Fire I thought it was a better movie, mostly because I couldn't stand the shaky cams in the first one. Like when Candace was like just running around and reacting to the violence of the Hunger Games nature. That got kind of old after a while. I kind of appreciate people when they can just hold the camera steady and not do this or this, side to side. You know, shake the camera intentionally. Just try to hold it like a normal person. It's not that hard, I don't think. Can't be. So the shaking cams in the sequel from here on out are gone from the Hunger Games franchise. So that's positive in the right direction. However, the bad, shitty, mediocre writing is back with a vengeance. And reigns to haunt you. Your time in this movie and your nightmares from this movie. Because this can be a bit of a boring movie. Like the first one can be. Due to the shitty dialogue and bland character interactions, and kind of forgettable ones. Even though they're believable, fine, do the job and all, they're just not memorable or lovable characters that leave a good impersonation for me. So, and the sequel didn't fix it. That problem, so sequel also gets a 5 out of 10. And Candace gets Candace and Peter get separated. She has to go see Peter and is on her wine Peter now in love with him after she's been hating him for 2 hours of the sequel of the film. And everyone's all up Katniss after because she's a selfish freak for some reason because she saved everyone in the Hunger Games movie but didn't give them any purpose, blah blah blah. So everyone's whining all up on Katniss's ass. Oh yes, and giving her shit about everything. Before the Hunger Games part of the movie starts in Catching Fire. You have to listen to people bicker and listen. I feel like it's like these people have never heard of a therapist or a shrink at all. Why are you talking to Katniss like this? Why don't you just find a therapist or a psychiatrist or someone that is capable of dealing with stupid, useless shit that's being obviously moved as a plot device to move the story forward? And an annoying one. So, on to the third one. So, the third one is Mockingjay Part 1 ends with Mockingjay Part 2. The conclusion to this franchise, the finale, was split into 2 parts of a movie. Really trying to make that Harry Potter money outweigh there. And that Twilight money and Lord of the Rings money outweigh there. Trying to do one of those things when there's more books than the actual movie, there's more movies than the actual books that they're based on. Like Harry Potter did, or Lord of the Rings did with their movies. But maybe this make it feel longer than it's necessary. Maybe this is just in my head. The Hunger Games is not that great to be an epic. I'm sorry. Or a franchise. At least the movie franchise. Granted, I haven't read the books, and I'm not going to say I'm a fan of the books. Or of a franchise. I'm not saying I'm going to read the books anytime soon because the movie has not interested me into wanting to come and look at that book because I feel like I would go fucking insane. Like it was this entire story that was told in this franchise. I was boring. It's just boring at times. This I don't care if as high as Jennifer Lawrence says. These are dull, boring movies. So stupid and boring and dull. You wanna know why Katniss is the best character and the only one that people can remember? Probably because she's the only one that's actually giving a shit. All the other characters are on autopilot and phoning it in, the entire cast. Except for Woody Harrelson. Maybe. But even he can be boring at times. This ain't fun Woody Harrelson that we see from Zombieland movies. Or, you know, the crazy one. This is Let There Be Carnage Woody Harrelson, where they need to make him the nice guy. Played by Woody Harrelson. But also an asshole at the same time. / nice guy. But they have to tone down like his sense of humor because you can't have Woody Harrelson be classic Woody Harrelson that you used to see in movies, and we like him for that reason because he was insane. Not because he was exactly a good actor, but because he was insane. He came across as an insane wacko, coked out of his mind on film. It was funny and so bizarre. His energy brings to his movies. Now I don't know if he's on drugs or anything. I don't know him personally. But he seems like a nut on film. Most of the time, except from the Hunger Games, when he even playing like the role of Norman. That's kind of why it sucks, and why he was such a forgettable presence. Woody Harrelson in the franchise. So he's in all 4 of them. So yeah, Mockingjay Part 1 Part 2 have continued from the second one left off on, and they all sync together, the Part 1 and Part 2. So the first one ends where the second one begins. Literally. Quite mean that on the nose. In the end, everyone has a happy ending. Hunger Games are no longer such thing, and there's been world peace and death to the Capitol. As far as we know, Katniss did all of that by shooting an arrow into the rebelling leader. Instead of shooting into Snoke's chest and killing him, that's the leader of the Capitol, she decided to kill the leader of the resistance that was behind everything, including the Capitol's doing. Okay. Why not? Sure. Makes sense to me. Why not? There's a bunch of other stuff in this franchise. So, Hunger Games. Mockingjay Part 1, 5 out of 10. Hunger Games Part 2. Mockingjay Part 2. Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, 5 out of 10. And, then goes for Catching Fire, the 5 out of 10. I gotta say, I wasn't a big fan of these movies. Bye, subscribe, please.